Seattle, Washington. Friday night, 6:47 p.m., Marlo Dixon was having the worst day of her professional life, and considering she'd once presented a design proposal with the completely wrong file to a millionaire client, that was saying something. First, she lost the Novatech Solutions contract to that arrogant jerk from the 12th floor. Second, she spilled iced caramel latte all over her brand new MacBook. Third, her car wouldn't start. And now, the rotten cherry on top, she was stuck in the Westlake Tower corporate building elevator with the last person in the universe she wanted to see, Thaddeus Brennan. The man was leaning against the chrome elevator wall, adjusting his black-framed glasses with that infuriatingly superior manner that made Marlo want to tear her hair out, his or hers, whatever. "You know," he said in that controlled, polite tone of voice she hated, "this is basically cosmic karma for you stealing my presentation last week." "I didn't steal your presentation," Marlo practically screamed, punching the ground floor button for the 15th time. "Just because my creative proposal was 10 times better than your boring spreadsheet. My boring spreadsheet had concrete data, financial projections, and technical feasibility. Your creative proposal was basically a kindergarten drawing with glitter. At least kids have imagination." Marlo spun on her heels, her studded leather boots hitting the floor. "Something you clearly let die along with your personality when you decided to become a corporate robot." Thaddeus opened his mouth to respond when the elevator shook violently and stopped, completely. The lights flickered once, twice, stabilized in a dim, sinister glow. Absolute silence. Marlo looked at the panel. Nothing. Pressed all the buttons. Nothing. "Perfect," she muttered, leaning against the cold wall. Absolutely perfect. Stuck in an elevator, on a Friday night, with the Prince of Boredom. It's infinitely better than being stuck with the Queen of Chaos and Destruction. Thaddeus already had his phone out, dialing with that irritating efficiency. "Hello? Yes, we're stuck in the elevator. Westlake Tower, elevator B. Yes, 12th floor. How long?" Marlo watched as he talked to maintenance. Even in crisis, the man was impeccable. Perfectly pressed light blue dress shirt, gray tailored pants, polished dress shoes gleaming, dark brown hair gelled perfectly in place, upright posture, the type of guy who probably ironed his socks. She, on the other hand, wore ripped black jeans, a vintage band t-shirt, a worn denim jacket covered in pins and combat boots, auburn hair with purple streaks pulled into a messy ponytail, fire and ice. 45 minutes, Thaddeus announced, putting his phone in his pocket with military precision. "Minimum." "You're kidding." "I never kid." "I know. That's part of your problem." Marlo slid down the wall until she sat on the cold floor, extended her legs, crossed her ankles. Wonderful 45 minutes with Seattle's most boring man. Still better than 45 minutes with the West Coast's most irresponsible woman. She was preparing a sharp response when his phone rang. The name Mom glowed on the screen. "Not going to answer?" Marlo asked, raising an eyebrow with a silver ring through it. Thaddeus looked at the phone like it was a ticking bomb. "If I answer, she'll want to know where I am." So? He ran his hand through his perfectly gelled hair, messing it up for the first time since Marlo had known him. "She's in Seattle. Surprise visit. With my dad. At my apartment. Right this second." Marlo let out a short laugh. "Yikes. Surprise parent visit that bad. You don't understand." Thaddeus leaned his head against the wall, closing his eyes. "They came because they're worried about my future." Translation: worried I'll never get married and give them grandchildren. "You? The guy who probably has a spreadsheet for finding the perfect wife?" "Had. Past tense. Because the deadline already passed and my mom reminds me every single week." The phone rang again, and again, and again. "Thaddeus, just answer the dang phone." He sighed, answered, and in the biggest mistake of his life, put it on speakerphone. Fatal error. "Thaddeus William Brennan." The female voice exploded from the speaker like a siren. "Where are you? We've been at your apartment for 40 minutes. 40! I made pot roast, your grandmother's pot roast. It's getting cold. Your father is... Frank, stop touching the thermostat. Your father is getting impatient." Sound of something crashing. Muffled voices arguing. And then a deep male voice. "Thaddeus, son, where did you disappear to? We drove 4 hours from Tacoma. Your mother is... Diane. The thermostat was perfect. We need to have a serious talk about your future." "Thaddeus, sweetheart, you need to think about settling down. You're already 29, almost 30. Remember Monica, the Henderson's daughter? She's pregnant with her third child, and you don't even have a girlfriend. When was the last time you went out with someone? That girl from the app doesn't count. You only had coffee with her. Coffee isn't even a real date. And another thing, Marlo watched Thaddeus enter full panic mode. Literally. His hands started trembling. His breathing accelerated. His perfectly composed face began to crack, the legendary control evaporating in real time. And then he did something completely insane. Something Marlo never, in a million years, would have expected. Thaddeus grabbed Marlo by the arm, pulled her off the floor with surprising strength, held her face with both hands, looked directly into her eyes with terrifying intensity and whispered, "Forgive me for this," and kissed her. It wasn't a gentle peck. It wasn't a shy kiss. It was a movie kiss. Dramatic, intense, desperate. Hands cupping her face, tilting her head, deepening the kiss like his life depended on it. Marlo froze completely, brain offline, system malfunction. Because Thaddeus Brennan, the man she hated with every fiber of her being, was kissing her. And it was good. Ridiculously good. The kind of kiss that made her stomach flip and her knees weaken and... Wait. The speakerphone. "Thaddeus?" His mother's voice was hysterical now. "What was that noise? Are you okay? Thaddeus William Brennan, answer your mother right now." Thaddeus pulled away abruptly, breathing hard, eyes wide in complete horror at what he'd just done. Marlo stared at him, still processing. But then she saw it. The phone, in his hand, speakerphone, still on, with his parents, listening to everything. "Thaddeus." His mother's voice was strange now, low, suspicious. "Thaddeus, are you with someone there?" He looked at Marlo. Marlo looked at him. And then, in a moment of pure collective insanity, Thaddeus spoke. "Yes." His voice came out hoarse. "Yes, Mom, I am. With my fiancé." The world stopped. Marlo felt her jaw drop. Absolute silence from the other end. And then, "You're what?" His mother screamed so loud the speaker crackled. "Since when?" his father bellowed. "Thaddeus William Brennan, you're engaged and didn't tell us?" Thaddeus looked like a deer in headlights, eyes wide, mouth open, total panic. "Since..." He swallowed hard. "Since..." Marlo didn't know what possessed her. Maybe it was the kiss still burning on her lips. Maybe it was the expression of pure terror on his face. Maybe it was pure mischief. But she heard her own voice say, 6 months. She smiled sweetly at Thaddeus, who stared at her in shock. 6 absolutely wonderful months. Thaddeus's hand found hers. Squeezed. Hard. In panic or gratitude or a plea for mercy, she wasn't sure. 6 months. His mother sounded like she was about to faint. "You've been engaged for 6 months and didn't tell us?" Frank, our son is engaged. We want to get married tomorrow," Marlo continued, because apparently she'd completely lost her mind. Thaddeus stared at her like she'd announced she was from Mars. "Tomorrow?" His mother was crying now. Oh, my stars. Oh, Thaddeus, my baby. My little baby is getting married. Frank, get the credit card. Get all the credit cards. We have a wedding to organize. Tomorrow. Oh, sweetheart. What's your name, dear?" "Marlo," she answered, still looking at Thaddeus in defiance. "Marlo Dixon." "Marlo, what a beautiful name. Welcome to the family. Oh, we have so much to do. The dress, the flowers, the cake, the venue, the guests. Thaddeus, bring Marlo home now. I need to meet my daughter-in-law. I need to hug her. I need to..." "Mom, wait," Thaddeus tried. "No more waiting, you young people today, always waiting. The waiting is over. Tomorrow, Thaddeus William Brennan, you're getting married tomorrow, with witnesses and family and..." The call dropped. Marlo and Thaddeus stood there, frozen in the broken elevator, hands still intertwined, staring at each other in absolute, complete, total horror. "You," Thaddeus whispered, voice trembling. You kissed me first." Marlo yanked her hand from his like it burned. "I was just committing us to get married tomorrow. I didn't know your mom was going to organize the entire wedding. It's not my fault you have an overly enthusiastic mom. It's not my fault you speak without thinking." The elevator shuddered. Lights flickered, and slowly, very slowly, it began to descend. "No." Thaddeus ran his hands over his face, messing up his gelled hair even more. "No. As soon as we get down there, I'll call my mom and explain it was a misunderstanding, a moment of temporary insanity. She'll understand. She has to understand. A misunderstanding? Marlo crossed her arms. You literally grabbed me and kissed me and announced we were engaged. You said tomorrow. You didn't correct me, because I was in shock that you said tomorrow. The doors opened on the ground floor with a cheerful ding. Both ran out in opposite directions. Marlo crossed the marble lobby, pushed through the glass doors, ran across the parking lot in panic, got in her car, which miraculously started this time, turned on the ignition, and sat there, hands on the steering wheel, heart pounding like a war drum. Her phone rang. Unknown number from Tacoma, Washington. She answered without thinking, still in a trance. Marlo Dixon? A warm, excited female voice, already with a tone of intimacy. My name is Diane Brennan, Thaddeus's mother. My son gave me your number. I hope you don't mind. Dear, I need your complete address to send the wedding invitation tomorrow morning, and your parents' names, of course, and your sizes for the dress. I have a friend who owns a boutique. She's opening especially for us tomorrow at 6 in the morning. Oh, and dietary restrictions, allergies, flower preference, roses or peonies. Actually, doesn't matter. I'll order both. And dear, dramatic pause, welcome officially to the Brennan family. I'm so happy to finally have a daughter. The call dropped. Marlo looked at the phone, looked at the building, looked back at the phone, and then started to laugh. Or was it crying? She honestly couldn't tell the difference. Saturday morning, 6:15 a.m., Marlo's apartment. Marlo woke up to her phone vibrating like a possessed jackhammer. 17 missed calls from unknown numbers, 32 text messages, and one particularly long voicemail from Diane Brennan that started with, "Good morning, sweetheart," and ended with detailed instructions about the bridal boutique appointment in 45 minutes. This was real. This was actually happening. She sat up in bed, her head pounding from the wine she'd consumed after getting home last night. 3 glasses. Okay, fine, the whole bottle. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Marlo, dear, it's Diane. The florist needs to know, garden roses or peonies. Actually, I'm getting both. See you at the boutique. Can't wait to hug you. XOXO. Marlo stared at the ceiling of her tiny studio apartment. Her vintage band posters stared back at her judgmentally. What have I done? She whispered. Her phone rang. This time she recognized the number. Thaddeus. She answered, her voice hoarse. This is your fault. My fault? His voice was tight, strained. She could picture him pacing, probably already dressed in some perfectly coordinated outfit despite the ungodly hour. You're the one who said tomorrow. You're the one who kissed me. I panicked. Well, I counter-panicked. Silence. Then, simultaneously, we need to fix this. They both stopped. Where are you? Thaddeus asked. My apartment. Getting bombarded with texts about flower arrangements. Me too. Except mine are about the venue. Apparently my mother called in a favor and got us the Fairmont Olympic. The Fairmont. Marlo shot out of bed. That place costs. I know what it costs. Thaddeus, we can't let this go on. We have to tell them. Another pause. Longer this time. I tried, he admitted, his voice dropping. Last night after I got home, I tried to explain it was a misunderstanding. And? My mother cried. My father opened champagne. My grandmother, who I haven't seen smile in 15 years, smiled. My aunt called from Boston and said this was the best news she'd heard since her remission. Marlo sank back onto her bed. Shoot. Yeah. So what do we do? She heard him exhale slowly. Meet me. We need to talk face to face. Where? The boutique. We're both apparently expected there in... A pause, probably checking his watch. 37 minutes. You want me to meet your mother at a bridal boutique? Unless you have a better plan to explain why we're not actually getting married today? Marlo looked at her reflection in the mirror across from her bed. Purple-streaked hair sticking up at odd angles. Last night's makeup smudged under her eyes. Vintage Ramones t-shirt she'd slept in. I don't even own anything appropriate for meeting parents. Just be yourself. He sounded pained saying it. You hate myself. That's not... He stopped. We don't have time for this argument. 36 minutes. The boutique is called Bella Rosa on Pine Street. He hung up. Marlo stared at her phone, then at her closet. This was going to be a disaster. 6:52 a.m. Bella Rosa Bridal Boutique. The boutique was the kind of place Marlo would normally never set foot in, all white and cream and soft pink, with crystal chandeliers and flowers everywhere. The kind of place that probably charged you just for breathing the jasmine-scented air. She stood outside, wearing the most parent-appropriate outfit she could assemble. Black, skinny jeans, at least they weren't ripped. A cream-colored blouse she'd bought for a client meeting once and never wore again, and her least intimidating boots. She'd even toned down her makeup and pulled her hair into a neat ponytail. She looked like a tamed version of herself. She hated it. The door opened and Thaddeus stepped out. He looked like he hadn't slept. His usually perfect hair was slightly disheveled, his tie loosened, his shirt wrinkled at the collar. It was the most undone she'd ever seen him. "They're inside," he said without preamble. "Both sets of parents." "Wait, both? My parents are here?" "Your mother is currently discussing centerpieces with my mother. They're best friends now, apparently." "How did your mom even—" "She called every Dixon in the Seattle area until she found your parents. Very determined woman, my mother." Marlo felt lightheaded. "Thaddeus, we have to tell them. Right now. Before this goes any further." He opened his mouth to respond when the boutique door burst open. A woman in her late 50s with perfectly coiffed blonde hair and a smile that could power a small city rushed out. "Marlo!" Diane Brennan swept Marlo into a hug that smelled like expensive perfume and hairspray. "Oh, look at you. Even more beautiful than Thaddeus described. And he went on and on about you last night, didn't you, honey?" Thaddeus looked like he wanted the sidewalk to swallow him whole. Before Marlo could respond, another woman appeared. This one with auburn hair going gray and a warmer, gentler smile. "Mom?" Marlo blinked. "Sweetheart." Her mother, Janet Dixon, pulled her into another hug. "Why didn't you tell us about Thaddeus? 6 months. We had no idea you were even seeing anyone. We were keeping it private." "Well, no more secrets." Diane hooked her arm through Marlo's. "Come on, we have 17 dresses to try. The boutique owner is a dear friend. She opened early just for us." Marlo shot Thaddeus a desperate look over her shoulder as she was dragged inside. He mouthed, "Later. We'll tell them later." The coward. Inside the boutique, the next 2 hours were a fever dream. Dress after dress after dress. Diane insisted on the full experience. Janet cried at literally every dress. The boutique owner, a tiny woman named Rosa, kept pinning and tucking and declaring each dress perfection. Marlo stood on a platform in front of 3 mirrors, wearing her 7th dress, a simple A-line gown with delicate lace sleeves, and caught Thaddeus's reflection in the corner. He was sitting in one of the plush chairs looking profoundly uncomfortable between his father Frank, a broad-shouldered man who hadn't stopped grinning, and Marlo's father, Robert, a quiet man who kept shaking his head in wonder. Their eyes met in the mirror. For a moment something flickered between them. Recognition, maybe, or shared misery. "This is the one," Diane declared, clasping her hands together. "Marlo, you look like a princess. More like a punk rock fairy," Thaddeus muttered. Marlo's eyes snapped to him. "What was that?" He stood, walking closer. "I said you look like a punk rock fairy. The dress is traditional, but you still look—" "You. Was that a compliment?" "Thaddeus, dear, what do you think?" Diane asked. "Should this be the dress?" He studied Marlo with those analytical eyes. She fought the urge to fidget under his gaze. "It's perfect," he said quietly. The mothers squealed. Rosa started talking about alterations and pickup times, and Marlo realized with growing horror that she was now the proud owner of a wedding dress. For a wedding that wasn't real, to a man she couldn't stand. In approximately 8 hours. 10:30 a.m. Coffee shop 2 blocks from the boutique. Marlo had insisted they needed coffee. Their mothers had agreed. "You two need some alone time before the big moment," and promised to handle the remaining details. Now she sat across from Thaddeus in a corner booth of a hipster coffee shop, both of them holding oversized mugs and staring at each other. "We are in so deep," Marlo said. "We're beyond deep. We're in the Mariana Trench of problems. Your mom bought me a dress. My dad called his brother in Florida to fly out for the ceremony. My mom is making a slideshow of my baby pictures. My grandmother is knitting us a blanket. She doesn't knit." Marlo dropped her head into her hands. "We have to tell them." "Agreed." Neither moved. So, why aren't we? Marlo asked. Thaddeus ran his finger around the rim of his mug. Did you see how happy they were? Yes. My mother hasn't looked that happy since my sister got into medical school. My father actually hugged me, twice. He's not a hugger. Marlo thought about her own mother's tears. Happy tears. Janet Dixon hadn't cried happy tears since Marlo's brother graduated college. This is emotional manipulation, she said weakly. It's definitely emotional manipulation. We're adults, we should just tell them the truth. Absolutely. More silence. Thaddeus leaned back, studying her. What if we don't? Marlo's head shot up. What? What if we go through with it? The wedding? Hear me out. He leaned forward and she caught a whiff of his cologne, something woodsy and annoyingly pleasant. We get married today, make our families happy. Then in a few months we quietly divorce. Irreconcilable differences. No one's fault. By then they'll have had their moment of joy and we can go back to our normal lives. Marlo stared at him. That's insane. More insane than what we've already done? You want to marry me, your worst enemy, and stay married for months. Plural. I want to avoid breaking my mother's heart. There's a difference. Thaddeus, we hate each other. Strong word. You called my design work kindergarten art. You called me a soulless corporate robot. You are a soulless corporate robot. See, we can't even have coffee without fighting. There's no way we can pull off a marriage. Marlo picked up her mug, took a long sip, and thought about it. Really thought about it. What would the rules be? She heard herself ask. Thaddeus blinked. Rules? If we do this insane thing, we need rules. Boundaries. A contract. A slow smile spread across his face. The first real smile she'd ever seen from him. Now you're speaking my language. He pulled out his phone and opened a notes app. Okay, rule 1. This is temporary, 6 months maximum. 3 months, Marlo countered. 4 months, minimum. Anything less looks suspicious. Fine, 4 months. Rule 2, Thaddeus continued typing. We maintain separate living spaces. Agreed, I'm not giving up my apartment. Rule 3, no one can know the truth. Not friends, not co-workers. Complete commitment to the act in public. Marlo nodded. Rule 4, we split all costs related to maintaining this charade. Fair. Rule 5, Marlo hesitated. No, romance. This is purely business. Thaddeus looked up from his phone, meeting her eyes. Something unreadable crossed his face. No romance, he agreed, though we'll need to appear affectionate in public. PG-rated affection only. Hand-holding? Acceptable. Occasional kiss on the cheek? If absolutely necessary. He made a note. Rule 6. Either party can call it off at any time if it becomes unbearable. Yes, emergency exit clause. I like it. They sat in silence, looking at the list on his phone. This is crazy, Marlo said. Completely. We're really going to do this? Thaddeus extended his hand across the table. 4 months. Fake marriage. Make our families happy. Then we go back to hating each other in the elevator. Marlo looked at his hand. Strong, clean fingers. Neatly trimmed nails. The hand of her enemy. She shook it. Deal. His grip was firm, warm. Neither let go immediately. There's one more thing, Thaddeus said, his voice lower. About last night. The kiss. Marlo's stomach flipped. What about it? We might need to. We'll probably have to kiss again at the ceremony for appearances. Right. For appearances. So we should probably establish that it doesn't mean anything. Obviously it doesn't mean anything. It was just panic. Total panic. And adrenaline. So much adrenaline. They were still holding hands. Marlo pulled away first, grabbing her coffee like a lifeline. So, do we need to practice? She wanted to die as soon as the words left her mouth. Thaddeus's eyes widened. Practice kissing? Forget I said anything. No, you might have a point. If we're awkward at the ceremony, people will notice. I'm sure we'll be fine. We should probably practice. I just said we'd be fine. You brought it up. I'm an idiot. Ignore me. Thaddeus stood up. Come on. What? There's an alley behind this building. No one will see. You want to practice kissing in an alley? Do you have a better idea? Marlo didn't, which is how she found herself 5 minutes later in a narrow alley that smelled faintly of coffee grounds and rain, facing Thaddeus Brennan, her soon-to-be fake husband. This is ridiculous, she muttered. Completely ridiculous. he agreed, stepping closer. It's just practice. Just practice. For the act. For the families. He was close now. Close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Close enough to notice he had a tiny scar near his left eyebrow. On three? He asked. On three. 1, 2. Neither of them said 3. Thaddeus kissed her. And just like in the elevator, it was nothing like she expected. Soft at first. Testing. His hands came up to cup her face gently, and she found her own hands gripping the front of his shirt. The kiss deepened, and Marlowe forgot they were in an alley. Forgot this was practice, forgot everything except the fact that Thaddeus Brennan was an infuriatingly good kisser. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, they stared at each other. That was... Marlowe started. Yeah, we should probably... Yeah. Neither moved. Marlowe's phone buzzed. She jumped back like she'd been electrocuted. Text from Mom. Sweetheart, we need you back at the hotel. Hair and makeup in 1 hour. Can't believe my baby is getting married today. Reality crashed back. I have to go, Marlowe said, not meeting his eyes. Me too. My dad wants to have a serious talk before the ceremony. They walked back to the street in awkward silence. So, Thaddeus said, adjusting his tie, we're really doing this. Apparently so. 4 months. 4 months. And then we divorce and never speak again. Perfect plan. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. See you at the altar, Marlowe Dixon. See you there, Thaddeus Brennan. He walked away, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. Marlowe watched him go and touched her lips. This was definitely just a business arrangement. Definitely. The fact that her heart was racing meant nothing. Nothing at all. 3 p.m. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel. Marlowe stood in a private suite wearing the dress, her hair styled in soft waves, makeup professionally done. She looked like a bride. She felt like a fraud. There was a knock on the door. Her mother entered, already crying again. Oh, sweetheart, you're so beautiful. Mom, I need to tell you something. I know this is fast, Janet interrupted, sitting beside her. But when you know, you know. I married your father after 3 months of dating. My mother thought I was crazy, but 32 years later, here we are. Marlowe's confession died in her throat. He's a good man, Marlowe. I can tell. The way he looks at you. Janet smiled. That's real. Another knock. Diane peeked in. 5 minutes, sweetheart. Oh, you look perfect. When they left her alone again, Marlowe stared at her reflection. 4 months. She could do this for 4 months. What could possibly go wrong? 2:47 p.m. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel, Grand Ballroom. Marlowe had been to exactly 2 weddings in her life. Both had been outdoor affairs with food trucks and indie bands. Casual, relaxed, very her. This was the opposite of that. The Grand Ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic looked like something out of a magazine. White roses and peonies everywhere. Diane had apparently ordered both, as promised. Cream-colored chairs with silk ribbons. Chandeliers casting warm light over everything. A string quartet playing something classical and romantic. There were at least 100 people here. Where did all these people come from? Marlowe whispered to her bridesmaid. Her college roommate Simone, who'd been called in at the last minute, and was still confused about the whole situation. No idea, Simone whispered back, adjusting Marlowe's veil. But I counted at least 3 people crying already, and the ceremony hasn't even started. Girl, what did you get yourself into? A monumental mistake. He's hot though, like unexpectedly hot, in that buttoned-up, secretly wild kind of way. Simone, I'm just saying, if you have to fake marry someone, you could do worse. Marlowe peeked through the crack in the door. The ballroom was filling up. She recognized her extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins she hadn't seen in years. On the other side, what must have been Thaddeus's relatives, all looking happy and eager. And at the altar, standing with the officiant and his best man, his business partner, apparently a guy named Warren who looked equally confused but supportive, was Thaddeus. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit. His hair was styled immaculately. He looked calm, collected, completely in control. He looked perfect. He looked terrified. Their eyes met across the distance, and even from here Marlowe could see him mouth, "We can still run." She almost laughed. "Sweetheart?" Her father appeared beside her, looking distinguished in his navy suit. Robert Dixon wasn't a man of many words, but his eyes were suspiciously shiny. You ready? No, absolutely not. This was insane. Yes, Marlo heard herself say. The music changed. The wedding march began. This was really happening. The walk down the aisle felt both endless and far too short. Everyone stood. Everyone smiled. Everyone looked so happy. Diane was crying into a lace handkerchief. Janet was crying into her husband's shoulder. Frank was beaming. Thaddeus's grandmother, a tiny, fierce-looking woman in purple, actually smiled, and Thaddeus watched her approach with an expression she couldn't read. His jaw was tight. His hands were clasped in front of him, but his eyes never left hers. When she reached the altar, her father kissed her cheek and whispered, "He better treat you right." "He will, Dad," Marlo promised, feeling like the worst daughter in the world. Robert placed her hand in Thaddeus's and stepped back. Thaddeus's hand was warm, steady. He squeezed her fingers gently. "You look beautiful," he murmured, so quietly only she could hear. "You look like you're going to pass out," she whispered back. "Same." The officiant, a kind-faced older man named Reverend Matthews, cleared his throat and began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Marlo Dixon and Thaddeus Brennan." Marlo's heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. This was it, the point of no return. They could still stop this. They could still... "Marriage is a sacred commitment," Reverend Matthews continued. "It is not to be entered into lightly, but with great care, respect, and love." She felt Thaddeus's hand tighten around hers. "Thaddeus and Marlo have chosen to write their own vows." "Wait, what?" Marlo's eyes shot to Thaddeus. He looked equally panicked. "We did?" Thaddeus asked. Diane called out from the front row. "Of course you did, sweetie. You emailed them to me this morning." "I did?" "Well, I did," Diane admitted cheerfully. "Based on what I know you'd want to say, go ahead, dear." Reverend Matthews handed Thaddeus a small card. Thaddeus looked at it, his face going through several emotions. Then he looked at Marlo, took a breath, and began to read. "Marlo, from the moment we met, you challenged me." He paused, and a small, genuine smile tugged at his lips. "You've never once let me get away with anything. You question my methods, disagree with my conclusions, and refuse to be impressed by spreadsheets." A few laughs from the crowd. "You're chaotic where I'm controlled, creative where I'm analytical. You see possibilities where I see problems." His voice softened. "You make me want to be less rigid, less afraid, more alive." Marlo's breath caught. He wasn't reading anymore. He was looking right at her. "I don't know what the future holds," Thaddeus continued, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "But I know I want to face it with you, even if you drive me absolutely crazy." The crowd laughed again. Marlo felt tears prick her eyes. This was supposed to be fake. Why did it feel so real? Reverend Matthews handed her a card. "Marlo," he prompted gently. She looked down at the card. Diane's handwriting. Pre-written vows from a woman who'd known her for less than 12 hours. Marlo crumpled the card in her hand. "Thaddeus," she started, her voice shaking slightly. "You're the most infuriating person I've ever met." Thaddeus's eyebrows rose. The crowd tittered nervously. "You're uptight, over-organized, and you think you're always right." She took a breath. "But you're also brilliant and dedicated, and you care about things deeply even if you pretend you don't. You pretend to be this cold, calculated person, but I've seen the way you look at your mother, the way you reorganize the office supply closet when you think no one's watching because you know it bothers Sharon, the way you stay late to help the interns with their projects." She stepped closer. "You make me want to be more focused, more thoughtful, more..." She searched for the word. "More grounded." His eyes were intense on hers. "I don't know what we're doing," Marlo admitted quietly. "But I'm willing to figure it out. With you." The silence that followed felt charged. Then Diane sobbed loudly, and the spell broke. "Beautiful," she wailed. "Beautiful." Reverend Matthews was smiling. "By the power vested in me by the state of Washington, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Thaddeus, you may kiss your bride." This was it, the kiss. For the crowd, for their families, for the act. Thaddeus stepped closer, his hands coming up to frame her face just like he had in the elevator, in the alley. His eyes searched hers for a moment, asking a question she didn't understand. Then he kissed her. It started gentle, appropriate for an audience. But then something shifted. His hands slid into her hair, careful of the styling. She gripped his lapels, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, and Marlo forgot about the 100 people watching, forgot about the cameras flashing, forgot about everything except the fact that this didn't feel fake anymore. Someone whistled. Someone else cheered. They broke apart, both breathing hard. "Ladies and gentlemen," Reverend Matthews announced with an amused smile, "Mr. and Mrs. Brennan." The crowd erupted in applause, and Marlo realized with dawning horror and something else she refused to name, that she'd just married Thaddeus Brennan, for real. 5:30 p.m. The reception. The reception was even more elaborate than the ceremony. Dinner was a 5-course meal. The cake was 4 tiers of elaborate frosting. The champagne flowed freely. A band played instead of a DJ, because of course there was a live band. Marlo sat at the head table next to Thaddeus, smiling until her face hurt, while an endless stream of relatives came to congratulate them. "You two are perfect together," Thaddeus's Aunt Margaret gushed. "Such a beautiful ceremony," Marlo's cousin Jennifer cooed. "I knew he'd find the right girl eventually," Frank declared, clapping Thaddeus on the shoulder hard enough to make him wince. Through it all, Thaddeus played his part perfectly, hand on the small of Marlo's back, arm around her shoulders, leaning in to whisper in her ear, mostly things like, "Smile more, you look constipated," and "Your uncle is trying to give me investment advice, help." She played her part too, laughing at his jokes, gazing at him adoringly when people were watching, letting him feed her cake during the photos. It was exhausting. "How are we doing?" Thaddeus murmured during a lull, his lips close to her ear to maintain the illusion of intimacy. "I've smiled more in the last 3 hours than I have in my entire life," Marlo muttered back. "My face might be permanently stuck like this. At least you don't have to dance yet." "Dance?" "First dance. It's traditional. I don't dance. Neither do I." "Perfect. 2 non-dancers doing a choreographed dance in front of 100 people. What could go wrong?" The band leader tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the bride and groom's first dance." Everything could go wrong, apparently. The dance floor cleared. Someone handed Thaddeus a microphone. "Oh no," Marlo whispered. "What now?" Thaddeus looked at the microphone like it was a snake. I think I'm supposed to say something." "You? Mr. Presentation perfect? You'll be fine." He shot her a look that clearly said not helping, then turned to the crowd. "Thank you all for being here," he started, his voice steady despite his obvious discomfort. "This has been unexpected." A few laughs. "I'm not good at this, the emotional stuff, the public declarations." He glanced at Marlo. "But Marlo makes me want to try. She pushes me out of my comfort zone, challenges me, drives me completely insane." More laughter. Marlo found herself smiling genuinely. "So here's to being pushed, to being challenged, to," he raised his glass, "to whatever comes next." The crowd raised their glasses. "To whatever comes next." Thaddeus handed back the microphone and extended his hand to Marlo. "Shall we get this over with?" "Most romantic thing you've ever said to me." The band started playing. Some slow, romantic song Marlo didn't recognize. Thaddeus's hand settled on her waist. Hers rested on his shoulder. Their other hands clasped together. They began to sway. "I have no idea what I'm doing," Thaddeus admitted. "Me either. Just step side to side and try not to step on my dress. That dress cost more than my car. Your mom bought it, not me." "Fair point." They moved in awkward silence for a moment. "Your vows were nice," Marlo said quietly. "So were yours. Even the parts where you insulted me. Especially the parts where I insulted you." He smiled. Actually smiled. "You really think I'm brilliant? Don't let it go to your head. Too late." She laughed and his arm tightened around her waist, pulling her slightly closer. "This is weird," Marlo murmured. "Which part? The fake marriage, the elaborate reception, or the fact that we're dancing?" "All of it. But specifically the fact that this doesn't feel as terrible as it should." Thaddeus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was low, serious. "It doesn't, does it?" They were closer now. Close enough that Marlo could smell his cologne again. Close enough to see the flecks of gold in his eyes under the chandelier light. 4 months, she reminded herself. 4 months, he agreed. But neither of them sounded convinced anymore. The song ended. The crowd applauded. Other couples joined them on the dance floor, and as Thaddeus spun her once more before stepping back, Marlo realized something terrifying. She was in trouble. Big trouble. 11:47 p.m. Outside the hotel. The reception had finally ended. The guests had dispersed. The parents had hugged them goodnight with tears and joy and plans for Sunday brunch. Now Marlo stood outside the hotel entrance, still in her dress, holding her shoes in one hand. Thaddeus emerged a moment later, his tie loosened, his jacket draped over his arm. "So," he said. "So," she echoed. "That happened." "It definitely happened." They stood in awkward silence. "My mom booked us the honeymoon suite," Thaddeus finally said. "I just found out." "Of course she did. I can get a different room. Or I can go home. Or, we should probably stay," Marlo interrupted. "For appearances. If we leave separately on our wedding night, people will talk." "Right, appearances. We're adults. We can share a suite for one night." "Absolutely. Professional. The suite probably has a couch. I'll take the couch. We can flip for it." More silence. A taxi pulled up. Couple got out, laughing, the woman's head on the man's shoulder. Real newlyweds, probably. Unlike them. "This is ridiculous," Marlo said suddenly. "We're married. Fake married." "Right, fake married." She turned to face him. "So why does it feel so real?" Thaddeus met her eyes. In the streetlight, his expression was unreadable. "I don't know," he admitted. "The vows, the kiss, the dance." Marlo shook her head. "We're supposed to hate each other." "I remember. So why don't I?" The question hung between them. Thaddeus stepped closer. "Marlo, don't," she interrupted. "Don't say something we'll regret. We have 4 months of this. We can't complicate it." "It's already complicated." "Then let's uncomplicate it." She forced herself to step back. "We stick to the contract, the rules. This is business." "Business," he repeated flatly. "Right." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Business. You're right." So why did she feel disappointed? "Let's go to the room," Thaddeus said, his voice carefully neutral. "You can have the bed. I'll take the couch. Tomorrow we go back to normal." "Normal. Good." They walked into the hotel together. Newlyweds, fake newlyweds, whatever they were. And Marlo tried very hard not to think about how his hand had felt in hers, or how his kiss had made her forget her own name, or how 4 months suddenly felt both impossibly long and terrifyingly short. This was fine. Everything was fine. She was definitely not falling for her fake husband. Definitely not. 12:15 a.m. The honeymoon suite. The suite was obscene. Rose petals on the floor. Champagne on ice. A California king bed with more pillows than any reasonable person needed. A bathroom with a jacuzzi tub. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle's skyline. And one couch. A fancy velvet decorative couch that looked comfortable for approximately 12 minutes. "I'm taking the couch," Marlo announced. "Don't be ridiculous. You're wearing a wedding dress. You're wearing a suit, which is significantly easier to sleep in than 50 pounds of lace and tulle." "It's not 50 pounds. Could have fooled me during the dip." Marlo felt herself smile despite everything. "You did okay with the dip. I've been lifting weights for situations exactly like this." "You lift weights in preparation for wedding dips? You never know when you'll need to dip someone." She laughed. Actually laughed. And the tension in the room shifted slightly. Thaddeus loosened his tie completely, pulling it off. "Here's what we're going to do. You take the bed. I'll take the couch. In the morning, we'll go to brunch with our families, smile a lot, and then go back to our separate apartments. Simple." "Simple," Marlo agreed. "We've got this. Totally got this." Neither moved. "You should probably change," Thaddeus said, not looking at her. "Right, yes, changing." Marlo grabbed the small bag Simone had packed for her and headed to the bathroom. The bathroom was as ridiculous as the rest of the suite. Marble everything, heated floors, bathrobes with the hotel monogram. Marlo peeled off the wedding dress carefully. It really did cost more than a car. And hung it up. She washed off the makeup, took down her hair, and changed into the pajamas Simone had packed. Except when she pulled them out, she froze. Simone had packed a silk nightgown. A short, black, very not appropriate for sleeping in the same room as your fake husband silk nightgown. "I'm going to kill her," Marlo muttered. She considered putting the dress back on, but that seemed more awkward than just dealing with the nightgown. She pulled on the hotel bathrobe over it. Better. When she emerged, Thaddeus had changed too. He wore dress pants and an undershirt, his formal shirt discarded somewhere. His hair was mussed from running his hands through it. He looked good. Annoyingly good. "Bathroom's free," Marlowe said, clutching the robe tighter. "Thanks." He grabbed his own bag and disappeared. Marlowe climbed into the enormous bed, pulling the covers up to her chin. This was fine. They were adults. They could handle one night in the same room. Thaddeus emerged a few minutes later wearing athletic shorts and a t-shirt. He'd washed his face and his hair was damp. He looked younger without all the styling, less intimidating, more human. "Comfortable?" he asked, settling onto the couch with a pillow and throw blanket that were definitely not substantial enough. "You're going to be miserable on that thing. I've slept in worse places." "Like where?" "College. My roommate's futon. I'm convinced it was made of concrete and broken dreams." Marlowe smiled. "The bed is huge. We could share, like adults." The words were out before she could stop them. Thaddeus froze. "Share the bed? There are approximately 47 pillows. We could build a wall. A pillow wall. A very effective pillow wall." He considered this. "That would be more comfortable than the couch. Significantly more comfortable. And we're adults. Very mature adults. Who can share a bed platonically? Completely platonically." He stood up, grabbed his pillow and blanket, and approached the bed like it might explode. They spent the next 5 minutes building the great wall of pillows down the center of the bed. It was impressively sturdy. "There," Marlowe declared. "Your side, my side, very clear boundaries. Crystal clear." They each climbed into their respective sides. Marlowe stared at the ceiling. Thaddeus stared at the ceiling. "This is weird," Marlowe said. "Extremely weird. We got married today, I'm aware. To each other, also aware. And now we're in bed together. With a pillow wall. A very effective pillow wall." Silence. "Thaddeus?" "Yeah. Thank you. For today. I know this is insane, but you were a good fake husband." She heard him shift. "You were a good fake wife. Even when I called you uptight in my vows? Especially then. It was the most honest part of the ceremony." Marlowe smiled in the darkness. "Good night, husband." A pause. Then softly, "Good night, wife." She closed her eyes, sure she wouldn't sleep, but exhaustion won. And when she drifted off, she dreamed of kisses and vows and a hand holding hers. Just business, she reminded herself even in dreams. Just business. 3:27 a.m. Marlowe woke to warmth against her back. She blinked in the darkness, disoriented. The pillow wall had collapsed, and Thaddeus's arm was around her waist. She should move, should rebuild the wall, should maintain the boundaries. Instead, she closed her eyes and let herself have this. Just for a moment, just for tonight. Tomorrow they'd go back to the rules. But tonight, she was warm and safe and maybe, just maybe, not as alone as she'd thought. She drifted back to sleep and didn't pull away. 2 weeks later, Monday 9:15 a.m., Westlake Tower. Marlowe stepped into the elevator, coffee in one hand, her laptop bag in the other, trying to look like someone who definitely had not gotten married 2 weeks ago to her office nemesis. The doors started to close. A hand shot through, stopping them. Thaddeus stepped in. They hadn't been alone together since the morning after the wedding. They'd maintained their separate apartments as agreed. Texted only about family obligations. Attended Sunday brunch with both sets of parents exactly twice, playing the happy couple, then retreating to their respective corners. The contract was working, mostly. "Morning," he said, not looking at her. "Morning," she replied, staring at the elevator buttons. Silence. The elevator climbed. 6th floor, 7th, 8th. "Your mom called me yesterday," Marlowe said finally. "Mine called me 3 times. She wants to know when we're coming over for dinner. Mine wants to know why we haven't posted wedding photos on social media. Because we're private people? That's what I said. She didn't buy it. 9th floor, 10th. "We should probably post something," Marlowe admitted. "Agreed, for authenticity. I'll send you some photos from the reception." "Fine." 11th floor. Marlowe risked a glance at him. He looked tired. His tie was slightly crooked, unusual for him. "You okay?" she asked before she could stop herself. He looked at her then, surprised. "Fine, why?" "Your tie is crooked." Thaddeus looked down, then quickly adjusted it. "Thanks. And you look exhausted. Big project. I've been staying late." "The Morrison account? How did you—" I heard you on the phone last week. Walls are thin. The elevator dinged. 12th floor. His floor. The doors opened. He didn't move. Marlo? Yeah? Do you want to have dinner? Tonight. My place. We should probably coordinate on the family stuff. It was logical, practical, very them. So why did her heart skip? Sure. What time? 7? I'll be there. He stepped out, then turned back. And Marlo, your hair looks nice like that. The doors closed before she could respond. Marlo touched her hair. She'd left the purple streaks out this morning. Went natural auburn. He'd noticed. 7:03 p.m. Thaddeus's apartment. Thaddeus's apartment was exactly what Marlo expected. Minimalist. Organized. Everything in shades of gray and white. Books alphabetized, not a single thing out of place. Except for the kitchen, where he was currently burning something. I can't believe you invited me over and you can't cook, Marlo said, peering at the smoking pan. I can cook, I'm just distracted. By what? He didn't answer, just turned off the stove and dumped the burnt chicken into the sink. Pizza, he suggested. Pizza's good. 20 minutes later, they sat on his pristine couch with a large pepperoni pizza between them, both pretending this was normal. So, Thaddeus said, pulling up his phone. Social media strategy. Right. Very romantic. We post one photo, something simple, add a caption about being happy, and then people stop asking questions. Exactly. He scrolled through the photos, stopped on one Marlo hadn't seen before, the two of them during the first dance. She was laughing at something he'd said. He was looking at her like it was real. This one, he said quietly. Yeah, Marlo agreed, her throat tight. That one works. He posted it. Caption, 2 weeks with my favorite pain in the neck, worth every argument. Marlo's phone buzzed immediately. Likes, comments, hearts. Diane, my babies. Janet, so beautiful. When are you giving me grandchildren? Simone, you two are sickeningly cute. I'm confused and concerned. That should buy us some time, Thaddeus said, setting his phone down. Until the next family dinner, which is this Sunday. Right. They ate in silence for a moment. Can I ask you something? Marlo said. Sure. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd just told the truth? That first night? Thaddeus was quiet for a long moment. Every day. Me too. But then I think about how happy they all looked at the wedding, and I think maybe this wasn't the worst idea. Even though we hate each other? He looked at her then, really looked at her. Do we still? Marlo's breath caught. I don't know. The air between them felt charged. Thaddeus set down his pizza. Marlo! Her phone rang, loud, jarring. She grabbed it. It's my mom. Answer it. She did, putting it on speaker. Hi, Mom. Zoe, sweetheart, I'm so glad I caught you. I have the most wonderful news. What news? Your father and I have decided to throw you and Thaddeus a proper reception. Next month. We've already booked the venue. The whole family is coming. Isn't that exciting? Marlo and Thaddeus stared at each other in horror. Mom, that's really not necessary. Nonsense, you got married so quickly we barely had time to celebrate. This will be perfect. I've already called the caterer, and I found the most darling ice sculpture company. Ice sculptures? Marlo mouthed to Thaddeus. He looked pained. And of course you'll need to write a speech, both of you, about your love story. How you met, how you fell in love, when you knew— Mom, we have to go. Marlo interrupted desperately. Of course, dear. I'll email you the details. Love you. Tell Thaddeus I love him too. She hung up. Marlo and Thaddeus sat in stunned silence. A reception, Marlo finally said, with speeches about our love story, which doesn't exist. We are in so much trouble. Thaddeus ran his hands through his hair. We need a story, a real one, something believable. How about the truth? We hated each other, you panicked, I made it worse, and now we're stuck. That won't play well with ice sculptures. Despite everything, Marlo laughed. And once she started, she couldn't stop. It was all so ridiculous, so absurd. Thaddeus started laughing too. Deep, genuine laughter she'd never heard from him before. They laughed until they cried, until their stomachs hurt, until the weight of the situation felt a little lighter. When they finally stopped, Marlo found herself closer to him on the couch. When had that happened? We'll figure it out, Thaddeus said softly. Yeah, we always do. His hand found hers on the couch between them. Neither pulled away. Thaddeus? The rules. In the contract. Are we following them? He looked at their joined hands. I don't know. Are we? I don't think so. Me either. Should we be worried about that? He turned to face her fully. Probably. But you're not pulling away. Neither are you. Marlowe's heart was racing. This is a bad idea. Terrible idea. We're supposed to be business partners. Just business. So why do I want to kiss you right now? The question hung in the air. Thaddeus's eyes darkened. Marlowe, tell me this is just part of the act, she whispered. Tell me you don't feel this too. I can't. Why not? Because I'd be lying. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull back. She didn't. Their lips met, and it was different from the elevator, from the altar, from the practice kiss. This wasn't panic or performance. This was real. His hands cupped her face, hers tangled in his hair. The kiss deepened, and Marlowe felt something inside her chest crack open. This was supposed to be fake. When had it become real? When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Thaddeus rested his forehead against hers. We're breaking the rules, he murmured. All of them. This complicates everything. I know. We should stop. Probably. Neither moved. Marlowe? Yeah? I don't want to stop. She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Me either. So what do we do? I have no idea. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile she was learning to treasure. Want to figure it out together? And Marlowe realized something. She wasn't falling for her fake husband. She'd already fallen. Yes, she whispered. Together. He kissed her again. And for the first time since this whole mess started, something felt right. 3 weeks later, Saturday afternoon, 2:45 p.m., Marlowe's apartment. Marlowe's apartment was the opposite of Thaddeus's. Colorful, chaotic, art supplies scattered across every surface, band posters covering the walls, a couch that had seen better days but was infinitely comfortable. Thaddeus sat on that couch now, laptop balanced on his knees, helping Marlowe brainstorm their love story speech for the reception next week. How about, we met in an elevator during a power outage, he suggested. Technically true, Marlowe said from the floor where she was sketching. Except it wasn't a power outage and we hated each other. Minor details. Also, your mom already knows we work in the same building. She'll ask why we never mentioned each other before. Thaddeus groaned, closing his laptop. This is impossible. We could just tell them the truth. After 3 weeks of this, after they threw us a wedding, after your mom planned an entire second reception with ice sculptures? Marlowe set down her pencil. You're right, we're in too deep. She crawled across the floor and climbed onto the couch next to him. Over the past 3 weeks, this had become normal, spending evenings together, staying over at each other's places, kissing whenever they felt like it. The lines between fake and real had blurred completely. What are you drawing? Thaddeus asked, pulling her sketchbook over. The reception venue. I wanted to see the layout for the speech. He studied her sketch. Detailed, creative, capturing the space perfectly. You're really talented. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not. I've always known you were talented. I just couldn't admit it when I was busy being your enemy. Marlowe smiled, curling into his side. Do you miss it? Hating me? Not even a little bit. He kissed the top of her head. Do you? Sometimes. It was simpler. Simpler isn't always better. She looked up at him. No, it's not. They kissed, slow and sweet, until Marlowe's phone rang. She ignored it. It rang again. You should answer, Thaddeus murmured against her lips. She grabbed it without looking. Hello? Marlowe. Her mother's voice was shrill with panic. Are you sitting down? I'm on the couch. Why? Your Aunt Patricia just told me the most horrible thing. She said she saw on Facebook that you and Thaddeus knew each other before the engagement, that you worked in the same building, that you were rivals. Marlowe's blood went cold. Mom. She's asking questions, sweetheart. She's asking how you went from rivals to engaged in 6 months without anyone knowing you were dating. She's suspicious. Thaddeus sat up straight, clearly hearing Janet's panicked voice. Mom, calm down, it's not. She's telling everyone, she's saying something doesn't add up. What if people start investigating? What if they find out you barely knew each other? What if… Mom! Marlowe interrupted. We'll handle it, I promise. Just give me a day to figure this out. One day, Marlowe, then I need answers. The call ended. Marlo and Thaddeus stared at each other. "This is bad," Marlo whispered. "Very bad. Your Aunt Patricia is a menace. She's always been nosy. But she's not wrong." Thaddeus stood, pacing. "We went from hating each other to married in one day. No dating period, no engagement photos. No one saw us together before the wedding. Because there was nothing to see." "Exactly. And now people are noticing." Marlo felt panic rising. "What do we do?" Thaddeus stopped pacing. "We come clean. Tell our families the truth, before the reception." "Tell them what? That we lied? That we panicked and made up an engagement? That we accidentally got married and decided to keep lying for months?" "When you put it like that, they'll be devastated, Thaddeus. Your mom has been planning this reception for weeks. My dad bought a new suit. Your grandmother finished the blanket. So what's the alternative? Keep lying forever?" Marlo stood, wrapping her arms around herself. "I don't know." Silence. "There's something else," Thaddeus said quietly. "What?" "Us. This." He gestured between them. "What happens when we tell them the truth? Do we tell them about this too?" Marlo's heart clenched. I don't know. Because if we say the marriage was fake, but then we're actually together now, that's going to raise more questions. But if we say the marriage was fake and we're not together," she couldn't finish the sentence. Thaddeus crossed to her, taking her hands. "Marlo, what is this? Us. What are we doing?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice small. "Do you want it to be real? Do you?" "I asked first." She looked up at him, at his earnest face, at the way he was looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. "Yes," she whispered. "I want it to be real." His expression softened. "So do I. But how can it be? When it started as a lie?" "Maybe it started as a lie," Thaddeus said, cupping her face. "But it's not anymore. I know you, Marlo. I know you take your coffee with oat milk and 2 sugars. I know you sketch when you're anxious. I know you're allergic to shellfish and secretly love cheesy rom-coms even though you pretend to hate them." Marlo felt tears prick her eyes. "I know you organize your books by color when you're stressed. I know you call your sister every Sunday. I know you're afraid of disappointing your parents and that's why you became an architect instead of the marine biologist you wanted to be. How did you talk in your sleep?" He smiled, pressing his forehead to hers. "Marlo Dixon. Brennan," she corrected softly. His breath caught. "Marlo Brennan. I'm in love with you." The world stopped. "You. What?" "I love you. I tried not to. Tried to keep it business. But I can't. I'm completely, hopelessly in love with you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "That's terrible timing." "I know. Everything's falling apart." "I know. We might lose everything." "I know. And you choose now to tell me you love me? Seemed as good a time as any." Marlo laughed through her tears. "You're an idiot." "Probably. I love you too." His eyes widened. "You do?" "So much it scares me." He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of everything they'd been holding back. When they broke apart, both breathless, the panic was still there. But so was something else. Hope. "We'll figure this out," Thaddeus said. "How?" "I don't know yet. But we will. Together." "Together," Marlo agreed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Diane. "Diane. Patricia called me. We need to talk. Family meeting tomorrow. Both families. 10 a.m. Don't be late." Marlo showed Thaddeus the text. "Tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow we face the music. Are you scared?" "Terrified." "Me too." He pulled her close. "But I'd rather face it with you than run from it alone." Marlo buried her face in his chest. "What if they hate us?" "They might. What if we lose them?" "We might." "Was it worth it?" Thaddeus tilted her chin up. "Falling in love with you? Absolutely." She kissed him again, trying to memorize the moment. The feel of his arms around her, the sound of his heartbeat, the way he smelled like coffee and cologne. Because tomorrow, everything might change. Sunday, 9:47 a.m. The Brennan family home, Tacoma. They stood on the porch of Thaddeus's childhood home, holding hands so tightly their knuckles were white. Both sets of parents were inside, waiting. "We could still run," Marlo said. "Where would we go? Mexico? Canada? Anywhere but here?" Tempting. Neither moved. "What's the worst that could happen?" Marlo asked. "They disown us. Tell everyone we're frauds. Demand an annulment. Never speak to us again." "Right. So, not great?" "Not great at all." The front door opened. Diane stood there, her face unreadable. "Come in," she said quietly. They walked inside like prisoners heading to execution. The living room felt like a courtroom. Frank and Diane on one couch, Janet and Robert on another. All four parents looking serious. Marlo and Thaddeus sat on the love seat, still holding hands. "Patricia has raised some concerns," Diane began. "Very valid concerns," Frank added. Janet's eyes were already teary. "Sweetheart, please tell us she's wrong. Tell us this is real," Robert said, his voice gruff. "Tell us you two didn't just make this up." Marlo looked at Thaddeus. He looked back at her. This was it. Truth or consequences. "We need to tell you something," Thaddeus started, "about how this started." "Oh no," Janet whispered. "It wasn't planned," Marlo continued. "That night in the elevator, we were stuck," Thaddeus said. "My mom called. He panicked. I kissed her. I said tomorrow. It spiraled." They were talking over each other, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Stop," Diane commanded. "Start from the beginning. Slowly." Thaddeus took a deep breath. "We weren't dating before the engagement." Silence. Janet's hand flew to her mouth. "We were rivals," Marlo admitted. "We competed for the same clients. We couldn't stand each other. Then Mom called during the elevator incident," Thaddeus continued. "I panicked. I kissed Marlo to avoid the conversation. And then, I said we were engaged. And I made it worse by saying we wanted to marry the next day," Marlo finished. The silence was deafening. Frank stood up, his face red. "You're telling me this entire wedding was based on a lie?" "The wedding, yes," Thaddeus said, "but we spent thousands of dollars." Diane's voice cracked. "We invited family from across the country. We know," Marlo said, tears streaming down her face. "We know, and we're so sorry. We tried to tell you, we wanted to tell you, but you were all so happy and we fell in love," Thaddeus said firmly. Everyone stopped. "What?" Diane whispered. "We fell in love," he repeated, squeezing Marlo's hand. "It started fake, but it's not anymore. I love her. I'm in love with her, really, truly, completely in love with her." Marlo turned to him, fresh tears falling. "I love him too. I know we did this all backwards. I know we lied. I know we hurt you. But what I feel for him, that's real." "How can we believe you?" Frank demanded. "You've been lying this whole time." "You can't," Thaddeus admitted. "We can't prove it. All we can do is tell you the truth now and hope you'll forgive us eventually." Janet was crying fully now. Robert had his arm around her, his own expression stricken. Diane sat down heavily. "I don't understand. How did this happen?" "We spent time together," Marlo explained. "For the act, for the families. But somewhere along the way, I got to know him. The real him. Not the rival at work. The person who calls his sister every Sunday and organizes his books by color when he's stressed." "She knows about that?" Diane asked weakly. "She knows everything," Thaddeus said. "She knows I wanted to be a marine biologist. She knows I'm afraid of disappointing you. She knows me better than anyone. And he knows me," Marlo added. "He knows I sketch when I'm anxious. He knows about my coffee order. He knows I'm messy and impulsive and completely wrong for him on paper, but perfect for him in reality," Thaddeus finished. The parents looked at each other. Long moments passed. Finally, Janet spoke. "Are you legally married?" "Yes," they said together. "And you want to stay married?" Robert asked. "Yes," Marlo said firmly. "Even though it started as a lie," Frank pressed. "Especially because it started as a lie," Thaddeus said. "Because we fell in love despite the circumstances. Because we chose each other when we didn't have to." More silence. Then Diane stood up and walked over to them. Marlo braced for anger. Instead, Diane pulled them both into a fierce hug. "You idiots," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You complete idiots." "We know," they said in unison. "You put us through all that stress. We know. Made us plan a wedding in one day. We know. Made me cry for 3 weeks straight. We're so sorry." Diane pulled back, holding both their faces. "But you love each other?" "So much," Marlo whispered. "More than anything," Thaddeus added. Diane looked at Frank. Some silent communication passed between them. "The reception is still happening," Diane declared. "What?" Marlo blinked. "Next week. Ice sculptures and all, but this time you'll tell the truth, the real story. How you went from enemies to lovers. How you fell in love despite yourselves. Janet stood up. And you'll do it right. No more lies. You'll tell everyone the truth? Thaddeus asked, shocked. That you panicked and got married to avoid a conversation? Frank shook his head. Absolutely not. That makes me look bad. But we'll tell them the real love story, Diane said. How two rivals fell in love. How sometimes the best relationships start in the most unexpected ways. You're okay with this? Marlowe asked. Robert spoke for the first time in minutes. Are you happy, sweetheart? Yes, Dad. Really happy. Then that's what matters. He looked at Thaddeus. You break her heart, I break your face. Understood, sir. And you, Janet pointed at Marlowe. No more lies. Ever. Never again, I promise. Diane clapped her hands. Good. Now let's plan that speech, and it better be good. As the parents started discussing reception details, Marlowe and Thaddeus stepped outside. They made it to the porch before Marlowe collapsed against him, sobbing with relief. They forgave us, she said between tears. I can't believe it. Your mom is terrifying. Yours threatened to cancel the reception. But they didn't. No, they didn't. Marlowe pulled back to look at him. We told them the truth, and we survived. We did. I love you. I love you too. They kissed on his parents' porch in broad daylight, with nothing to hide anymore, and it felt like freedom. 1 week later, the reception evening. The venue was beautiful. Ice sculptures, yes, really. Flowers everywhere and a crowd of family and friends waiting to hear their speech. Marlowe stood at the microphone, Thaddeus beside her, both terrified and ready. We need to tell you how we really fell in love, Marlowe began. She told them about the rivalry, the elevator, the panic, the kiss. Thaddeus told them about the contract, the rules, how they'd tried to keep it business. Together, they told the truth about falling in love despite themselves. The crowd was silent. Then someone started clapping. Simone, then Thaddeus's sister, then more people. Soon the entire room was applauding, many crying, all smiling. Sometimes love doesn't follow the rules, Marlowe concluded. Sometimes it sneaks up on you when you're not looking. Sometimes it starts with a lie and becomes the most true thing in your life. And sometimes, Thaddeus added, pulling her close, your worst enemy becomes your favorite person. He kissed her. The crowd cheered. And Marlowe thought, this is real, all of it. Finally, completely real. 6 months later, Saturday morning, 8:30 a.m., their apartment. Marlowe woke to the smell of coffee and something burning. Again, she smiled before even opening her eyes. Thaddeus, are you burning breakfast? She called out. No, came the reply from the kitchen. A pause. Maybe. Want help? Absolutely not. I've got this under control. There was a crash, then a creative string of frustrated muttering. Marlowe laughed, climbing out of bed. She padded into the kitchen of the apartment they'd moved into 3 months ago. A perfect compromise between his minimalism and her chaos. Clean lines with pops of color. Organized shelves with her art supplies neatly contained. His books alphabetized by color next to her vintage band posters. Home. Thaddeus stood at the stove, hair adorably messy, wearing pajama pants and her "Design is my therapy" t-shirt that he'd stolen weeks ago. A pan of what might have once been pancakes smoked gently in front of him. I can see you have everything under control, Marlowe said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He leaned back into her embrace. I watched 3 YouTube tutorials. How is it still going wrong? Because cooking isn't about spreadsheets and precision. It's about feel. I hate feel. I know. She kissed his shoulder blade. How about I make the pancakes and you make the coffee? Deal. 20 minutes later, they sat at their small dining table, one of Marlowe's flea market finds that Thaddeus had initially hated but now loved, eating actually edible pancakes and drinking perfectly brewed coffee. So, Thaddeus said, setting down his mug, I have something for you. Is it another color-coded organization system for my art supplies? You said you liked the last one. I did. It lasted 3 days before I destroyed it. I noticed. He pulled an envelope from behind his laptop. This is different. Marlowe opened it. Inside was a brochure for a gallery space in downtown Seattle. The Morrison Gallery is looking for featured artists, Thaddeus explained. I may have mentioned your work to the owner. She wants to see your portfolio. Marlowe's hands started shaking. Thaddeus, this is a huge gallery. You're a huge talent. What if she hates my work? She won't. You don't know that. I do, actually. Because your work is incredible. And I'm not just saying that because I'm legally obligated to support you. Marlo felt tears prick her eyes. You really think I'm ready? He reached across the table, taking her hand. I think you've always been ready. You just needed someone to believe in you as much as you deserve. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, he grinned. Even when you destroy my organization systems. She threw a piece of pancake at him. He threw one back. Within seconds, they were laughing. Pancakes forgotten, kissing across the table like teenagers. This was real. This was them. And it was perfect. That evening, 7:15 p.m., Westlake Tower. They'd started a tradition of leaving work together on Saturdays when they both had to go in. No more pretending they didn't know each other. No more separate elevators. Now they walked to the parking garage hand in hand, Marlo's head on Thaddeus's shoulder. I submitted my portfolio, Marlo said. Thaddeus stopped walking. You did? Right after lunch, figured I'd rip the Band-Aid off. And now we wait. She looked up at him. Thank you. For pushing me. Thank you for letting me. They reached her car. She'd finally gotten it fixed. And Thaddeus pulled her close. Remember when we got stuck in that elevator? He murmured. How could I forget? Worst day of my life. Best day of mine. Liar. You were terrified. True. But it gave me you. Marlo smiled. That's disgustingly romantic. I know. I've been practicing. It's working. He kissed her, slow and sweet, right there in the parking garage where they'd first become enemies, where everything had started. 2 weeks later, Sunday brunch, the Brennan house. Sunday brunch with both families had become a regular thing. Chaotic, loud, full of unsolicited advice and too much food. Marlo loved every minute. So when are you two giving me grandchildren? Diane asked for the millionth time, passing the fruit salad. Mom, Thaddeus groaned. What? It's a valid question. You've been married almost a year. 7 months, Marlo corrected. Feels like a year with how happy you two are, Janet added. It's actually nauseating. Thank you, Marlo said. Robert cleared his throat. Speaking of the future, I heard the Morrison Gallery called you. Everyone went silent. Marlo set down her fork. How did you? Small town, the art community, Robert said with a rare smile. Congratulations, sweetheart. Wait, what? Thaddeus turned to her. They called? Marlo bit her lip. I was going to tell you after brunch. They want to feature my work. 3-month exhibition starting next month. The table erupted. Diane was crying, as usual. Janet was already planning an opening night party. Frank was offering business advice. Thaddeus's sister was demanding free art. And Thaddeus just stared at her, his eyes shining with pride. You did it, he said. We did it, she corrected. He pulled her into a kiss, not caring that their entire family was watching and cheering. Get a room, his sister called out. We have a room, Thaddeus shot back. A whole apartment, actually. Which brings us back to grandchildren, Diane interjected smoothly. Everyone groaned, but Marlo and Thaddeus just smiled at each other. Maybe not yet, but someday. They had time. 3 months later, opening night at Morrison Gallery. The gallery was packed. Marlo stood next to her featured wall, 20 pieces showcasing her journey from corporate design to fine art, wearing a dress Thaddeus had helped her pick out. Black, edgy, very her, and trying not to hyperventilate. Breathe, Thaddeus murmured, appearing at her side with champagne. There are so many people. They're here for you. What if they hate it? They don't. I've been eavesdropping. Someone just called your Cityscape series hauntingly beautiful. Really? Really? He kissed her temple. You did this. You're amazing. A woman approached, sophisticated, probably in her 50s, with an art dealer's sharp eye. Marlo Brennan? She asked. Yes, that's me. Veronica Chen. I run the Chen Gallery in Portland. I'd love to discuss representing you. Marlo nearly dropped her champagne. What? Your work is exceptional. Fresh perspective, technical skill, emotional depth. I think we could do great things together. She handed Marlo a business card and glided away. Marlo turned to Thaddeus, speechless. See? He said, grinning. Told you. The rest of the evening was a blur. More gallery owners, art collectors, people wanting to buy pieces. Her parents beaming with pride. Diane already planning to put Marlo's work in her house. And through it all, Thaddeus stayed by her side, supporting her, believing in her. When the gallery finally closed and they stood alone among her art, Marlo felt overwhelmed with gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For pushing me, for believing in me, for that terrible kiss in the elevator that started all this." Thaddeus pulled her close. "Best mistake I ever made." "Second best," Marlo corrected. "What's the first?" "Putting our marriage announcement on speakerphone." He laughed. "Fair point." They stood there, wrapped in each other, surrounded by art and possibility and love. "Thaddeus? I want to renew our vows." He pulled back to look at her. "What?" "The wedding was beautiful, but it wasn't. It wasn't us. It was panic and lies and family pressure. I want to do it again, for real this time. Just us and the people we love saying words we actually mean." His eyes were suspiciously bright. "You want to marry me again?" "I want to marry you for real. Choose you deliberately. Not because we panicked in an elevator, but because I can't imagine my life without you." "Marlo Brennan, are you proposing to your own husband?" "I think I am." He kissed her, deep and thorough and full of promise. "Yes, yes, yes, I'll marry you again. As many times as you want. Just once more should do it. Deal." 6 months later, small ceremony in Discovery Park, Seattle. This time, there were only 20 people. Close family, best friends. The people who really mattered. No ice sculptures, no elaborate venue. Just the Seattle skyline, the sound of the ocean, and 2 people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way. Marlo wore a simple white dress, tea-length, vintage-inspired, perfectly her. Thaddeus wore a suit, but he'd left the tie loose at her request. They'd written their own vows, real ones this time. "Thaddeus," Marlo began, her voice steady, "you've seen me at my worst. You've seen me chaotic and messy and completely irrational. You've seen me destroy every organization system you've created and steal your favorite t-shirt." Laughter from their guests. "But you've also seen me at my best. You believed in my art before I did. You push me to be braver. You make me want to be better, not for you, but for myself. Because you see who I really am and you love that person." She took a breath. "I choose you. Not because of panic or family pressure or circumstance. I choose you because you're my best friend, my partner, my home. I choose you every day for the rest of our lives." Thaddeus was already crying. He didn't even try to hide it. "Marlo," he started, his voice rough with emotion. "You drove me crazy from the moment we met. You challenged everything I thought I knew. You made me question my perfectly ordered life and wonder if maybe chaos wasn't so bad." He smiled through tears. "You taught me that love isn't about control or planning or perfect spreadsheets. It's about trust. It's about letting someone in, even when it's terrifying. It's about choosing each other over and over, every single day." He squeezed her hands. "I was half alive before you, going through motions, checking boxes, following rules. You made me feel. You made me live. You made me brave enough to want more than just existing." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I choose you. Today, tomorrow, forever. In elevators and apartments and everywhere in between. You're my favorite chaos. My best decision, my greatest adventure." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. The officiant, Simone, who'd gotten ordained online just for this, smiled. "By the power vested in me by the internet and the state of Washington, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Again. For real this time. Thaddeus, kiss your wife like you mean it." He did. And as they kissed, surrounded by the people they loved, with the Seattle skyline behind them, and the future ahead of them, Marlo thought, this is it. This is the happy ending. No, not ending. Beginning. Epilogue. 1 year later, the apartment was a disaster. Paint everywhere. Canvas propped against walls. Moving boxes half unpacked. Thaddeus's meticulously organized books scattered across the floor. And in the middle of it all, a crib. "I think we're going to need a bigger place," Thaddeus said, stepping over a box labeled, "Baby clothes, do not open until emergency." Marlo looked up from where she sat on the floor, organizing tiny socks. "You think?" He sat down next to her, pulling her against his side. "You know what I was thinking about today? How much you regret marrying me." "Never." He kissed her head. "I was thinking about that elevator. How if we hadn't gotten stuck, none of this would have happened." Marlo looked around at their chaotic, beautiful, imperfect life. "We probably would have stayed enemies, competing for clients forever. never knowing what we were missing. Exactly. He rested his hand on her very pregnant belly. Weird how life works. The baby kicked. They both felt it. She agrees, Marlo said. Life is weird. The best kind of weird. Marlo's phone buzzed. A text from Diane. Diane, have you picked a name yet? Frank wants to suggest Diane Jr. again. I told him absolutely not, but wanted to give you warning. Also bringing dinner tomorrow, and the week after, and possibly forever. You're welcome. Love you. Marlo showed Thaddeus. They both laughed. Should we tell them we already picked a name? She asked. Not yet. Let's enjoy the suggestions a bit longer. You're evil. You love it. I do. She did. She loved all of it. The chaos and the organization, the burnt pancakes and perfect coffee, the late-night art sessions and early morning spreadsheet reviews, the families who'd forgiven them and loved them fiercely, the baby on the way who would grow up hearing the story of how her parents fell in love in an elevator. It wasn't the life she'd planned. It was better. Thaddeus's phone rang. His mom, of course. He answered on speaker. Hi, Mom. Thaddeus, I just had the most wonderful idea for the baby's nursery. Sea creatures. Because your original dream was marine biology, and we could... Marlo and Thaddeus looked at each other and smiled. Some things never changed, and honestly, they wouldn't want them to. The end.